future value with Agility Finance. Manukau and Waitemata. Southwest 10 knots rising to 15 late morning. Southwest easing to 10 late evening. Hodaki Gulf Southwest 15 rising to 20 knots about the outer Gulf tonight. And a strong wind advisory Bream near to Cape Colville. High tide at Auckland 20 to 1 this afternoon and at Onehunga 3:30 this afternoon. Today mainly fine, areas of morning and evening cloud. Tomorrow cloudy and ahead to Saturday expect occasional rain, clearing to fine in the evening. Today's high 18. Currently we're sitting on 13 degrees here at Newstalk ZB.
Talking the big issues, talking the news, talking to you. It's Kerre Woodham Mornings on Newstalk ZB.
Newstalk ZB, 9:07. Welcome to Thursday, the 5th of October. Kerre Woodham with you through until midday. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins with us through until 10 o'clock. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister, Chris Hipkins, coming down with COVID, has scuppered a bit of the election campaign plans, but it worked in our favour because it meant you were bored to sobs sitting in the hotel room by yourself, done all the colouring in books, and now you can join us to take
I've
the
got
call.
past the time of day somehow, Kerre. It's fantastic to be able to talk to you. Of course, this would have been one of the highlights of my week, even if I hadn't been in isolation.
I am very glad that we can provide you with a little bit of diversion. Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm actually feeling much better today. Each day is sort of a little bit better. So I'm hoping by tomorrow, and I should be able to get out and about again tomorrow. I'm hoping that I'll be well and truly on the mend by then.
Talk about being hoisted by your own COVIDian petard with the, recommended isolation days.
Oh, there's irony on every level here. I mean, COVID-19's disrupted everything in the last 3 years. I guess it's there's a certain symmetry to the fact that it's completely disrupted the last few weeks of the election campaign as well.
I know. Well, look, if it's any consolation, I've got a head cold. If there's a spare bed in your hotel room, I'll whip round there and isolate with you, and we can watch Shawshank Redemption and get rid of our viruses. Anyway, the other thing let's get cracking. And callers, questions for the Prime Minister, 0800 80 10 80. Please get on straight away, because what usually happens is you leave it to the last minute and then we've got about 30 people wanting to get on in the last 10 minutes. Keep it brief, keep it related to policy, keep it related to any questions you have around the Prime Minister's policies, leadership, that sort of thing. We would love to get you on, and Chris Hipkins would no doubt love to talk to you. Now, the economy. Grant Robertson keeps blowing his whistle and parping his horn and waving his flags and saying, look, we're doing so well and we're doing so much better than any other country in the world. But a commentator I respect enormously, Dr. Robert McCulloch, has a different take. He says, how on earth can Grant Robertson tell people that Kiwis are getting better off despite GDP per capita, which measures the average income of a Kiwi, is falling based on his own pre-election economic update? Are we doing well or are we not?
If you look at New Zealand's overall rates of economic growth right at the moment, we're second only in the OECD to Japan. Now, that's despite the fact that a lot of people were predicting that we had been in recession for the earlier part of this year, when clearly we hadn't been in recession. On a per capita basis, if you go back and look at the track record of the key government, actually you'd find periods during that period of time where the per capita growth rates were relatively sclerotic as well.
Yeah.
Clearly, we can't rely on population growth to grow our economy, which is why in the brief time I've been Prime Minister, I've been so focused on export growth through enhancing our trade agreements, because actually that's going to help us grow our per capita wealth.
Yeah, growing per capita wealth is great, but then you have other reports that say we're down at 17th. It depends on which report you want to read in terms of how well we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the reports from earlier in the year, they were suggesting that New Zealand could be in recession. We're not. In fact, we've got the second highest growth rate in the OECD after Japan. So many of those reports are based on data that was just simply wrong. But let's just boil this down. If you're someone sitting in your car listening to this at the moment, the idea that the economy is growing faster than many around the world isn't going to be much comfort to you when you're being smacked around by the cost of living. So I get that for households, actually that's the number one issue that they're feeling at the moment.
Every single leader and commentator says there's nothing left in the cupboard. that it's going to be a really tight 3 years, that anybody promising anything based on heavy spending is just pie in the sky. We thought we had it rough for a couple of years. It's going to get tougher.
Oh, we've been really upfront about the fact that, the next 3 years is going to be very modest for government. It's not the time for big spending. It's also not the time for big tax cuts.
But that's what Labor governments always say. Labor governments come in and then they spend, and then they criticise national governments for being austere. And National goes, we had no choice. There was nothing left. We had to rebuild a buffer.
In fact, National are proposing to spend significantly more than we are in this campaign. Their tax cuts, as Goldman Sachs said yesterday, would actually keep inflation higher for longer and therefore interest rates higher for longer. And actually, more data out yesterday showed that their tax cuts are actually a scam. Christopher Luxon's been going up and down the country telling families that they'd be $250 a fortnight better off. Turns out less than 1% of New Zealand families would get that much. For 99% of New Zealand families, it's more like something like $20 a week. So it's. I think that they're being a bit disingenuous with what they're promising New Zealanders.
Well, I suppose we can always find a report or a counterclaim in these glorious days with economists for hire who can back up our own particular argument. I'd like to go to the callers now, if I may, because that's the point of having this talkback session. Richard, do you have a question for the Prime Minister?
Yes, good morning, and thank you for taking my call, Mr. Hipkins. When you took over power back in 2016, 2017, government debt was around $59 billion. It's now around $200 billion. Your party has borrowed more debt than any other political party in history, including the printing of around $50 billion to pay for COVID. I know that you can't pay off the debt, but can you tell me what you're doing to slow down your borrowing or to try and stop it? Or even, do you have any plan to try and pay back the debt?
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Richard. The most important thing we can do right now is to get the books back into surplus. So if we don't want our debt to grow, we've got to get the books back into surplus, and we're on track to do that within the next couple of years. Make sure that government spending does come back, so that we're not spending more than we are earning. I would put our debt into perspective, though. Our debt is about, relative to the size of our economy, our debt's about half of what Australia's is, and it's a fraction of what the US and the UK have.
But they have a better ability, don't they, to pay theirs back?
Well, no, if you look at it as a share of your economy, that's actually a good measure. And as a share of our economy, our debt is very low by international standards. Actually, why did we borrow? Well, a big part of that went into things like the wage subsidy, making sure that we were supporting people, to stay and work during COVID-19, and doing all the things like vaccination and testing and all of the things that were required from COVID-19. And a big chunk of it's gone into infrastructure. Yes, we've borrowed more money for infrastructure. I'm not going to make an apology about that, because roads have to be paid for somehow. Building more houses has to be paid for somehow. The infrastructure to build more houses.
What sort of infrastructure?
Will have a multi-generational return. So it's only fair that we spread the cost of those over a longer period by using borrowing to do that.
What sort of infrastructure? Because our roads are potholed and disarray. The building of houses hasn't happened at the rate you promised, and you've accepted that. I'm thinking of, school lunches went into the COVID spend. Kerre, cameras on fishing boats went into the COVID spend.
Let's talk about infrastructure. So, yes, Kiwi Build was not the success that we expected it to be, and I've been really open about that. But we're actually building record numbers of houses across the country at the moment.
Many of which were started by National.
Well, no.
If you look at Northcote and the ones that Shannon Halbert was crowing about, they were started under National.
They started demolishing some of the old ones. They didn't allocate any funding to replace them. That's all happened under our government. And in terms of the infrastructure that's supporting up to 50,000 private sector houses being built at the moment, a significant part of that infrastructure, so we're talking about the pipes that go under the ground and all of those things, that's actually being funded by our government. We've put a lot of money into infrastructure for housing. In terms of roads, yes, our roads are in disrepair. If National hadn't frozen road maintenance funding for nearly 9 years, we wouldn't have so much catching up to do. We're spending more money on road maintenance than ever before, because for 9 years the funding for that was frozen.
The roads of national significance were a good plan, and of course the roads around Christchurch and Kaikoura had to be fixed. Money would have been diverted there.
Absolutely. But, roads of national significance, we're still finishing them. I mean, we finished the Transmission Gully Road. It's a great road, but it costs significantly more than the National Party had budgeted for.
Shock me. It went over budget. What government would ever do that? The Prime Minister, Chris Hipkins, taking your calls. We'll be back with your calls very, very shortly. Newstalk ZB 9:16.
The NZ Superstock Team Champs is coming up, and you could be going with 8 VIP experiences up for grabs. So get registered online now for your chance to win.
Make the impossible task possible with Window Witch from Wet and Forget. Streak and spot-free windows first time without the need to squeegee. Simply apply, agitate lightly, then rinse for a professional finish and reach up to 8 metres. No streaks, no spots, no need to towel dry the windows, and no need to squeegee. Get the right product first time and pick up Window Witch. Only available at Wet and Forget. 7 stores Auckland-wide: Silverdale, Westgate, Mairangi Bay, Mount Eden, Lunav, Takanini and Pukekohe.
Looking for a place to call home? One Roof makes your search simple. From thousands of property listings right across the country and estimated valuations based on the very latest sales figures, One Roof shows you what's for sale and what it's worth. Whether you're upsizing, downsizing, searching for your first home, on the lookout for rural or investment property, or land to build your own, visit oneroof.co.nz or download the app today. One Roof. Be property prepared.
Alliance Group's annual Farmer Roadshow is on now at locations across the country. Join the Alliance team to hear more about the performance of New Zealand's only 100% farmer-owned red meat cooperative and the outlook for the year ahead. There'll be time to chat over light refreshments, and you're welcome to extend the invitation to others who are interested in the cooperative. Alliance Group's annual Farmer Roadshow. Visit events.alliance.co.nz to register for a meeting near you or speak to your livestock rep.
Get into the ultimate driving machine with Continental Cars BMW. From the all-new BMW X1 to the lineup of exciting fully electric BMWs, there's something to suit every lifestyle. You'll also have the reassurance of 5-year warranty, 3-year service plan and 5-year roadside assistance with every new BMW purchased. T's and C's apply. Visit the experienced team at Continental Cars BMW Waido Road on the North Shore and check out the full model range today. Continental Cars, driving excellence.
Freedom's mid-season sale has been extended. Don't miss out on saving up to 25% off selected sofas, plus up to 25% off selected living and dining furniture. Hurry, sale must end Monday. Only at Freedom.
Here's your chance to hear from more than just the 2 main party leaders. Find out what the other parties have to offer you. Join me, Jack Tame, for the multi-party debate. Tonight at 7, live on TVNZ1 and TVNZ Plus.
Where the newsmakers meet their match. It's Heather Duplessis-Allen Drive.
Nicola Willis is National's finance spokesperson and with us now. What's up with Paula Bennett endorsing Brooke Van Velden? Did you look at that and think, mate, that's not helpful?
Well, I thought it wasn't helpful.
Okay, are you going to give Paula a call?
No.
No?
Well, she left Parliament a long time ago. She's not answerable to me.
Heather Duplessis-Allen Drive with One New Zealand. Back today at 4, only on Newstalk ZB.
Newstalk ZB 9:19. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins zooming in as he isolates recovering from COVID. To Michael, good morning to you.
Yeah, hi, Kerry. Question for the Prime Minister. Over the last 6 years, he has been a minister responsible for key portfolios, including education, health and police. And all of those areas are in a real mess at the moment and are facing major issues for Kiwis, or creating and presenting major issues for Kiwis. And it seems that now he sat around the cabinet table for those 6 years responsible for those ministries. He's now in the Prime Minister's chair, and he's walking away from his responsibilities or pretending that he wasn't part of the problem.
Education must hurt, because I know that's a passion of yours, and you have to concede we're failing our New Zealand kids. The fact that you are offering free tutoring, 2 million hours of catch-up tutoring, is an admission of failure, surely.
It's an admission that we sent Kiwi kids home for millions of hours during the COVID-19 lockdown periods, and we've actually got to catch up for the lost learning that they lost during that time.
But we were assured throughout that with the connectivity, with the internet going out, with the many millions, and you asked for many millions more, to send all of the learning devices around the country to kids that didn't have them, it would be fine. There were assurances that it would be fine.
We certainly did our best to plug the gaps when we were sending kids home. But
what do you think happened to those laptops?
Their learning has been disrupted. In most cases, they were returned to the schools, and the schools are now using them as a pool of resource that they can send home with the kids, or they can use whilst they're in school. That was the policy. The laptops ultimately belonged to the school, and so most of the schools will have collected those laptops back, or have left them with the kids so they can continue their learning when they're not at school. But the reality here is, of course it's going to be disruptive. Around the world, kids' learning has been disrupted. We've put thousands more teachers into schools. We've been rebuilding our schools. One of the reasons that we're talking about literacy and numeracy is I introduced new requirements for literacy and numeracy in the NCEA where none previously existed. And it's shown that our kids aren't doing as well as we need them to be doing.
And they haven't been for a long time. And I mean, as I say, I know education is a passion for yours, but when you look at the number of kids who are not turning up for school, who are disengaged, who don't want to be there despite the free lunch, which I thought might attract them in, who are peer-to-peer in other countries falling behind and continuing to fall behind, you have done nothing in 6 years to remedy that.
I totally disagree with that, Kerry. We've got thousands more teachers in our classrooms now. We've been rebuilding our schools, and we've been focused on making sure teachers get the professional development they need to be better teachers.
They're saying they're not.
If you're going to use as a measure of success the literacy and numeracy rates of 15-year-olds, which is the standard measure of that, I'd remind you that those 15-year-olds did their entire primary school education under the last national government when national standards were in place, and they were supposed to fix this problem, and they made it worse. The reality is...
It's been falling a lot... Our decline began a lot earlier than that.
Our decline began in around about the year 2000, and it has been relatively steady since then. COVID-19 has unfortunately meant that we haven't we haven't stopped the decline. We've got to actually get things back on track by focusing on quality teaching and learning. That's why we're putting extra money into extra tuition so that kids can catch up from the lost learning that they lost during COVID-19.
Parents have been doing this.
Teacher professional development.
The number of parents who are stretched every which way but are still managing to find the money to send their kids to literacy and numeracy tuition, the numbers of them that have phoned in and said that the curriculum itself is failing their kids, and the new one is a shambles. The new one that schools aren't even implementing.
Well, the new one hasn't been approved yet, so I'm not surprised that schools aren't implementing it, because it's actually a work in progress.
They've said they're walking away from it.
Well, how can you walk away from something that hasn't actually been agreed? So the goal around the curriculum review is to make sure that we do actually deal with the weaknesses in the curriculum, like the fact that we need to strengthen literacy and numeracy.
Yes, and like the fact that the one that you offer up, educators are turning away from, saying this is silly.
The last national government for NCEA made it easier for kids to get their literacy and numeracy requirements. Here's an example of the flaw in their logic. Under the changes introduced by National, kids could get literacy and numeracy doing only PE. Now, and we wonder why kids are leaving school without the literacy and numeracy skills that we need. I changed that as Minister of Education so that there's a stronger literacy and numeracy requirement for the NCEA, and I think that was the right thing to do.
Jason says, I'm looking at the OECD website. New Zealand's growth rate is 29th, just ahead of Estonia. Where does the PM get second from? That's what I mean about the different graphs, charts, reports. Jason can find one that would support his own claim that you haven't been good for the economy.
So the most recent quarterly statistics released by Statistics New Zealand show that our growth rate was the second highest in the OECD, second only to Japan. So the most up-to-date, most recent stats released by Statistics New Zealand, who are independent, they do the statistics independently, shows that actually our growth rate is one of the strongest.
Newstalk ZB, it's 9:25.
It's all go at the Weber store this weekend. The Weber Barbecue Bash is on. We're Auckland's only Weber store, a world-class barbecue store unlike anything previously seen in New Zealand, exclusively showcasing the complete Weber barbecue range. And this weekend, some of New Zealand's top barbecue chefs are in-store grilling up amazing barbecue food, demonstrations and tasting all day. Plus, come and check out the brand new Weber Q range. New models, colours, capabilities and features. They truly are amazing. Weber store, 86 Lane Ave, Mount Wellington.
My pile of laundry's done in a flash at Liquid Laundromats.
Make laundry day a breeze by heading to your nearest Liquid Laundromat. With over 120 locations across New Zealand, you're never far from your local Liquid Laundromat. And remember, every $100 accumulated on your Liquid card, and they'll add a $5 bonus. Liquid Laundromats, open 7 days a week with convenient hours to fit your busy life. Visit liquidlaundromats.com for your nearest location. Happy washing and drying.
Make the impossible task possible with Window Witch from Wet and Forget streak and spot-free windows first time without the need to squeegee. Simply apply, agitate lightly, then rinse for a professional finish and reach up to 8 metres. No streaks, no spots, no need to towel dry the windows and no need to squeegee. Get the right product first time and pick up Window Witch, only available at Wet and Forget. 7 stores Auckland wide, Silverdale, Westgate, Mairangi Bay, Mount Eden, Lunev, Takanini and Pukekohe.
Hi folks, David Seymour here. When you vote at this election, forget the politicians' promises. Instead, think of the waste we're saddling our kids with. Think of the businesses ruined by crime, and think of the need to end the division of our country by race. It's not enough to change from red to blue. To ensure that your next government of New Zealand is one of real change, stand with me and party vote ACT.
Authorised by D. Smith, 27 Gillies Avenue, Auckland 1023.
According to businesses Kordia recently surveyed, over half faced cyber incidents last year. Kordia's Cyber Defence Operations Centre ensures round-the-clock monitoring, backed by over 120 cyber security experts. Kordia.co.nz.
Get your scan on with the Monopoly game at Macca's. Unlock the chest by scanning 5 property cards into the McDonald's app and you'll receive a guaranteed win. Download the McDonald's app and play today. Ends 24th October. For full terms, visit mcdonalds.co.nz. See an app for details.
Chris Hipkins taking your calls on 0800 80 1080 on Kerre Woodham Mornings with Pinnacle Life. Easy online life insurance. Newstalk ZB.
Newstalk ZB. My daughter is doing chemical engineering. She's also an athlete, says Alenka. Amongst other subjects, she did PE to year 13. I suggest you look at this area of study, reliteracy. She pretty much had to do a mini thesis in her final year on a chosen physiology question. It's not just throwing a ball about. Thank you, Alenka. CGT. Why are you against a CGT or wealth tax when a lot of polls show that New Zealanders support it?
I'm opposed to a wealth tax because I don't agree with the principle of taxing unrealised gains. So, someone owning a farm who is just continuing to farm, their farm goes up in value, could find that they're being taxed on that, even though they have no intention of selling their farm. And it doesn't necessarily mean they've got a whole lot of cash sitting in the bank. So the idea of taxing unrealised gains is one that I'm not comfortable with. And so that's why when I looked at a wealth tax and when, the work was done on a wealth tax, I decided that I don't think actually it would be fair. And also I just don't think it would generate the sort of income that we would want it to generate, because of the people who do have money sitting in the bank can move it somewhere else where they wouldn't pay a wealth tax. So it wouldn't be ultimately delivering the sorts of benefits that people might like to see. In terms of a capital gains tax, the challenge with that is if you're going to apply that prospectively, so in the future rather than retrospectively, it takes about 10 years before it starts to generate any money. And as long as you've got, a situation where an incoming, change of government would mean a change in the tax regime, then actually it's ultimately not going to change anything.
Yeah, if the Greens cobble together enough votes and make it a bottom line, would you revisit it?
No, I've said that we won't do a capital gains tax unless there's a bipartisan consensus across the parliament on it, and there clearly isn't. Okay, Kerre, a very good morning to you. You're a councillor in South Waikato.
I am indeed, and I have a question for Chris. How are you both? I hope you're well.
Well-ish.
Thank you. On the mend.
On the mend, that's great. Hey, look, I am a councillor, elected member like yourself. So my question is, moving forward, how will Labor support local councils, especially the small rural ones, when they keep changing legislation and policies, as in like Tree Waters, which is now 310, maybe 69 in the end, who knows, the RMA Act, which puts more pressure on the small councils' finances, which we then pass on to our ratepayers, which we all know our people can't afford anymore. How will Labor help our local governments moving forward?
one of the reasons that we embarked on water infrastructure reform is that we know that councils can't afford all of the water infrastructure upgrades that are required. Our water pipes, whether it's wastewater, freshwater, stormwater, they're just not up to scratch. And particularly small councils can't afford to fix them. So by consolidating into 10 entities, the management of our water infrastructure, we can get the economies of scale we need, and we can actually stop those huge rates increases that will otherwise be required if we don't change the way we do water. So National's plan of just leaving it to the councils and saying it's their problem to fix is ultimately going to mean significantly higher rates bills. In terms of the other work that councils do, there's been a review of local government. It's been led by local government, and that does include, conversations about what kind of funding local government should have access to. I think where central government asks local government to do more, we should make sure that we're funding them for that. And so I think that should be part of the ongoing conversation arising from that, review of local government as to how we can best fund the activities that local governments do. But water infrastructure is the biggie, and we've got a plan to actually stop the huge rates increases that are otherwise going to be inevitable.
Which is blowing up in your face due to a really, really poor sales job of it.
Yeah, look, I don't think it was sold very well in the beginning. I don't think we explained well why we were doing it. But let's be clear, there was also, an element of dog whistle racism involved in some of the questioning around co-governance. The reality is co-governance, as proposed in water reform, is nothing new. It's no different to what we've done, to what the last national government did with the Wanganui River or the Urewera National Park or a variety of other natural assets.
Yeah, and they were able to sell it. They were able to sell it. I would argue that perhaps it's your government that's created the divisions. National has done more in terms of settling treaty claims and has done so quietly and competently.
Well, they did so because we chose not to make a fuss of it in the way that they are. Ultimately, it's National that's making the noise about this. National put in place all those co-governance arrangements. They didn't sell either. They just didn't talk about it. If they'd have had an opposition that was, playing the kind of divisive politics that they have been playing, I think there would have been much more fuss about it.
When we look at the debates, there were te reo in schools, absolutely. Bilingual road signs, absolutely. I didn't see any race baiting.
Well, the National Party had a real go at bilingual road signs and said if they were bilingual, New Zealanders wouldn't be able to understand them.
Not on the debate.
Well, their spokespeople have been out there regularly. Their spokesperson, in fact, has been out there regularly saying that if we have te reo Māori on our road signs, New Zealanders will have more accidents because they won't be able to understand them. It's just not true.
Well, clearly your leader didn't have a problem with them, but their leader, might be your leader, didn't have a problem with them. Newstalk ZB, it is 9:33.
Newstalk ZB Auckland. Time saver traffic.
Time to get your garden growing with Palmer's Spring Specials. Good morning now. The Southern Motorway, moderate to heavy, Ellerslie through to Green Lane. No delays on the northwestern or the southwestern. The northern northbound, moderate over the Harbour Bridge. Citybound slow at Upper Harbour. For good advice and great savings, pop into your nearest Palmer's Garden Centre. Ivanka Zonich for time saver traffic and travel.
Cost of living getting you down? Don't go without. Become a VIP member at the Coffee Club and get 20% off the bill all day, every day. Join online today. Visit thecoffeeclub.co.nz and start saving.
Peugeot, Citroën and Opel nationwide clean car clear out is now on. Save thousands on new electric, plug-in hybrid and petrol models. Starting from as low as $29,990 for Citroën, $31,990 for Opel and $35,990 for Peugeot, plus on-road costs. Accelerate your savings today while stocks last. Visit your local Armstrongs Peugeot, Citroën and Opel dealership or shop online at armstrongs.co.nz.
Time to upgrade your old hearing aids? Trade them in and save on the latest technology at Audica Hearing Clinic with $2,000 off a new pair from our Optimal range. Love your ears. Call 0800 785077 to find out more. But hurry, our $2,000 trade-in offer ends 31 October 2023. For full T's and C's, go to audica.co.nz/trade-in. Always read the label and follow the instructions.
Savour spring dishes at award-winning restaurants at Sky City and enjoy the added luxury of free parking when you spend more than $100 dining at selected Sky City restaurants this October. Specific dining times apply. Visit skycity.co.nz/free parking.
Enjoy huge early bird savings right now on Danske Møbler's new season outdoor furniture collection. A stunning range showcasing the hottest trends for summer. Outdoor living has never looked so good. Hurry in Sunday at Danske Møbler, furniture for living.
Cost of living getting you down? Don't go without. Become a VIP member at the Coffee Club and get 20% off the bill all day, every day. Join online today. Visit thecoffeeclub.co.nz and start saving.
Newstalk ZB headlines.
With Blue Bubble taxis, it's no trouble with a Blue Bubble. Mail isn't delivered as quickly as it used to be. As an electoral law expert, Graham Edgler says the Electoral Commission shouldn't be taking all the flack for failing to deliver easy vote cards in a timely fashion. The Green Party is raising concerns about the lack of awareness around how MMP works, with co-leader James Shaw saying he's forever being asked about how the system works. Former National Prime Minister Sir John Key has posted a video to social media urging people to party vote National, so National has the numbers to govern well without lots of moving parts. Tairāwhiti newborns and their mothers needing complex care will now be transported to Wellington instead of Hamilton or Auckland. Before now, mothers headed to Auckland and babies to Waikato. Queenstown Council has hosted a blessing ceremony this morning for graves that were damaged by flooding last week. Gouging or valuable? Kiwi firms split on $60 a month Facebook verification fee. Read more on that story at NZ Herald Premium. Back to Kerre Woodham.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. 23 minutes to 10. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins is in his hotel room but is appearing via Zoom. I am a secondary school PE teacher. The amount of literacy within the PE curriculum is extremely intense. We often have feedback from students and parents that there's more literacy involved than in English. How can the Prime Minister and former Education Minister have no clue what the New Zealand curriculum actually looks like? Embarrassing.
Look, I don't agree that the physical education curriculum is a rigorous one, and that's a good thing. But I think that kids should need to have a more balanced curriculum than that in order to be able to meet the requirements that we have of them.
All right. Franco, a question for you around medicine policy.
Good morning, Prime Minister Hipkins and Kerre. So I'm a final year pharmacy student, and I'm going on to study medicine next year. So my question is around MedSafe. So I personally believe that in New Zealand, we're underutilising our pharmacists, and that's adding more pressure to emergency department and GPs. So would you be open to requiring MedSafe to match the TGA's approval rates of new medicines and pharmacist-only medicines, especially with the pharmacist-only medicines, so pharmacists could have more pharmacist-only medicines to use to treat patients acutely? Thank you.
Thanks, Franco.
If the ultimate question is, should there be more pharmacy-only medicines? Yes, there should be. Should pharmacists be able to do more to support people without them having to go to the doctors? Yes, absolutely, they should be. We've had the minor winter ailment scheme in place over the last winter in order to try and keep people out of EDs during the COVID-19 peaks. And actually, it was hugely successful. So I think we should look at expanding that. It worked really well. I mean, the people with minor ailments could just go to the pharmacy, get what they needed and go home again without having to go and sit in a GP's waiting room in order to get a prescription for it. So we've tried that. It's working. I think taking the $5 prescription copay away is another thing that will actually boost the role of pharmacists in the local community. They're well trusted. It's much easier for people just to walk in off the street and see a pharmacist than to go and make an appointment to see a GP. So short answer to your question is absolutely I see a bigger role for pharmacists.
Does that answer the question, Franco? Hello, Franco? Might have gone. Steve, question on vaping.
Yes. Mr. Hipkins. Mr. Hipkins, I really don't think you and your party have any idea of what goes on in the real world, and you're detached from reality. One of the things that disgusts me and perplexes me the most about your party is your lack of will to follow Australia's lead and ban vaping, right, which I thought would be a no-brainer. And I think that's akin to child abuse. There's obviously another ideological bent going on, and instead you've put, again, fluffy regulations in place, which I'll then just... That's your detachment from a reality, you see. Your fluffy regulation for everything. and you're passing on of the responsibility to others is the thing I think that disgusts a lot of New Zealanders. You're basically palming it off, aren't you, to retailers?
Okay, answer that question. Is it the banning of vaping Steve wants to see?
What I've said that we're going to do is limit the number of vape stores to 600 nationwide, and that they'll be licensed and that they won't be near schools, early childhood centres, maraes and so on, so that we can actually reduce the availability of vapes. We've taken action to stop the sale of disposable vapes, which is what we know young people were particularly targeting. But what I don't want to see is people going back to smoking tobacco because we make it so difficult for adults who are trying to give up smoking to access vapes. We've got some of the lowest smoking rates that we have ever had because people have switched to vaping instead. Ultimately, I'd rather have people who were smoking tobacco switch to vaping than go back to tobacco because vapors are impossible to get hold of. So there's a balance to be struck here. I do think that young people taking up vaping is a tragedy, but the solution to that is to limit the number of vape stores, to make it a licensed regime, to ban the disposable vapes, but still make sure that adults who are giving up smoking can access them.
Fizzy drinks in schools. You said you'd ban them in primary schools and wanted to take them out of secondary schools. Can you clarify that?
So we had a paper went through the system late last year, just before I stopped being Minister of Education, to remove fizzy drinks from primary schools. Most primary schools have done it already, so this would have made it mandatory for all primary schools. The consultation that we did on that found that actually people wanted us to do it in secondary schools as well. So we decided to combine those two decisions and go back and rerun that process. So that's what's happening at the moment. But certainly it is our intention to ban fizzy drinks from sale in schools. Obviously, we can't stop kids bringing them in their bags, but we can certainly stop the schools selling them.
Sugar tax?
No, I don't support a sugar tax. I just think that it would be an additional complication at this point in time.
Newstalk ZB, 18 to 10.
Savour spring dishes at award-winning restaurants at Sky City and enjoy the added luxury of free parking when you spend more than $100 dining at selected Sky City restaurants this October. Specific dining times apply. Visit skycity.co.nz/free parking.
When you vote this election, you'll be deciding who's got your back when times are tough. Labor will take GST off fresh fruit and veg, make dental care free for under 30s and keep free prescriptions. Party vote Labor.
Authorised by Rob Salmond, 187 Featherston Street, Wellington.
There's nothing quite like having your favourite magazine in your hands. Get 2 months free when you subscribe to one of your favourite magazine brands with Mag Shop's Super Spring Sale. That means you'll save over 60% on some of New Zealand's most loved magazine titles, including The Listener, Your Home and Garden, New Zealand Women's Weekly and more. Don't miss out on 2 months free subscriptions. Terms and conditions apply. Subscribe today at magshop.co.nz.
IT, technology, software. Where do you even start? If you've got a tech problem, Theta has a solution. Theta help transform your business with technology. End-to-end business solutions, analytics, cybersecurity. They've got it covered. From strategy to implementation and beyond, they'll deliver and support a system that does exactly what you want, the way you want. Get in touch today. Go to theta.co.nz. That's theta.co.nz.
FineWineDelivery.co.nz.
Hi, it's Jeff. Even iconic wineries like Vavasor aren't immune to export cancellations these days. We're clearing export stocks of the pure-fruited, luscious Vavasor Pinot Gris at the unthinkable price of $14.99. Get in quickly? Vavasor Gold Medal Pinot Gris at $14.99, only to Fine Wine Delivery shoppers.
FineWineDelivery.co.nz.
Weeknights from 6, it's the Business Hour with Heather Duplessis-Allen.
Thanks to MyHR, the HR platform for SME.
MyHR combines expert HR advisors with smart HR software and an all-in-one solution to help you manage every step of the employee life cycle.
One simple monthly fee, no lock-in contracts. Start making HR easy today at myhr.works.
With a focus on local and international issues to keep you fully informed, it's the Business Hour with Heather Duplessis-Allen. Weeknights from 6.
With MyHR, only on Newstalk ZB.
Chris Hipkins taking your calls on 0800 80 1080 on Kerre Woodham Mornings with Pinnacle Life, easy online life insurance. Newstalk ZB.
Newstalk ZB, it's 14 to 10. Now, before I get to our callers, what did you want to touch on? What do you want to develop or spend time speaking on?
Are you asking
Sorry,
me?
yes, I am. I'm sorry, I was gazing at you down the line, but maybe you didn't see me. Well,
That's all right. No problems. Look, I acknowledge that we're gearing up for the last week or so of the election campaign now, and people are talking about cost of living. They're talking about what it's going to mean for their household. The outcome of this election, and that's very much what I'm keen to spend the last week of the campaign talking about, because I know that National's tax plan will result in interest rates staying higher for longer. That's going to whack every mortgage holder, and I also know that the $250 a fortnight that National have been promising families is just a fiction. And actually, most families will get a fraction of that amount of money from tax cuts, and they will end up paying significantly more as a result. So I'm very happy to talk about any of those things.
See, that's the thing. All the way through the texts I'm coming through, you don't have the privilege of seeing them. They're all saying, stop talking about National, talk about what you're going to do, how you're going to make things better, and also asking how you can pretend everything is fine when it's clearly not fine. Crime is a big issue. Daryl says, when you say you've put 1,800 new cops on the beat, is that frontline police? If so, what were the numbers before? What are the numbers now? And where are all these new police?
So the 1,800 extra police that we've put on the beat includes a mixture of sworn and authorised officers. So they're the people who are working on the front line, absolutely. And we've promised that we will have 300 more constables in addition to that in the next term of Parliament. I acknowledge that crime is of concern to New Zealanders at the moment for good reason. That's why we're focused on making sure we're tackling the causes of crime, getting those young people who are getting into trouble off the streets, and actually making sure we're engaging them in something constructive. But let's talk about, our plan around the cost of living, seeing as you've invited me to do that. I set out a 10-point cost of living plan that involves taking GST off fruit and vegetables, making dental care free for the under 30s, making public transport free for the under 13s and half price for the under 25s, boosting working for families, the in-work tax credit by $25 a week. That'll be a big boost to those families with children who need it, making early childhood education free for 2-year-olds. That's in addition to the 3 and 4-year-olds who get free early childhood education now. Making sure that we're helping families with their power bills by providing home insulation to some of our lower income New Zealand families, because we know that cuts their power bills and keeps them out of hospital. So we have set out a 10-point plan that's really focused on supporting people with practical things that make a difference. Actually, most Kiwi families, when you add all of that up, are going to be better off under that approach than under a tax cut that might give them another $20 a week, which would then quickly be consumed by the fact that inflation would stay higher for longer.
Most Kiwi families would be better off under that 10-point plan?
Absolutely, because if you look at it, one of the most important things we're doing is bringing inflation down and bringing interest rates back down again. Once inflation comes back down, and the National Party's plan, as the economists have been saying for the last
some economists, other economists,
will keep inflation higher for longer.
Andrew, you have a question for the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister Hipkins, I had a question about fiscal responsibility, but just really quickly, I've got a comment on vaping. Yes, you're correct. Vaping's helped a few adults get off traditional cigarettes. It has addicted tens of thousands of kids. I live right by a school. They stream out past my second-floor apartment. A couple of weeks ago, I stopped counting at 150 kids that were vaping. And, this is one school, so they need to be banned and on prescription. But fiscal responsibility, there's a lot of parties saying the other party's not fiscal responsible, we're the fiscal responsible one. I had a question for you around the Provincial Growth Fund and just get your comments on it. The audit of that said it was incredibly badly managed to the point where the government employees, your employees, didn't write down who they gave money to or what they gave, and they had to remember off the top of their head in their memory. So did you have any comment? Because I look at that as very bad fiscal responsibility management from your government. Did you have any specific comment on the Provincial Growth Fund audit?
Well, first of all, the Auditor General certainly did not make that last finding that you've just mentioned there, so I'm not sure where you got that information from. I read the Auditor General's report, and while they did raise some concerns around some of the processes needing to be more robust, they certainly didn't find that people had been given money with no record of the money that they had been given. That never happened, and it wouldn't happen. There are systems in place to make sure that does not happen.
Reading that report, they said they had no idea if it was value for money or not because they couldn't work out where the money had gone and where it had been spent and what kind.
Kerry, that's not the claim. The claim was that money was given out and people didn't know where it went. That's simply not true. Now, whether or not the outcomes that people have been funded for have been delivered or not is a different question. But I can tell you that we know exactly who got the money and where the money went. The issue around evaluation of the outcomes from the Provincial Growth Fund is a live debate. But actually, around the country, I've been to visit Provincial Growth Fund projects that are actually delivering huge benefits.
Some of them are amazing.
New Zealand.
Some of them are amazing, but that was lucky. There was no analysis, cost-benefit analysis. And that's the thing about so many of the policies that have come in place over the past 6 years with the Kāinga Ora stay-in-place, instructions to keep the worst people in their Kāinga Ora home or transfer them to another Kāinga Ora building, hoping that if you love-bombed them enough that they'd come right. That has caused incredible damage to so many neighbourhoods of Kāinga Ora communities. People have ended up in intensive care, people have ended up in hospital, people have ended up desperate to leave their homes. Did it work?
Where anyone's breaking the law, then absolutely there should be consequences.
Well, there aren't.
Well, no, there must be. There should be. I mean, that's a matter for the police. If someone's breaking the law, it's a question for the police. But Kāinga Ora booting out tenants so that they end up living in cars will actually make the crime problem worse rather than better.
Do you think why not let a poor Limmen family who have been put in storage in emergency housing in a motel, give them a chance to live in a nice place?
Well, but where will the families that are being evicted go?
Or the individual, the young man who's been causing the problem go? After five attempts to rehouse them, I don't care.
Well, I think we should all care because if they end up living on the streets, then actually crime is going to get worse.
No.
We still have a responsibility as a government to make sure that we are providing housing for New Zealanders where no other housing options are available. Now,
Newstalk ZB, we're going to have to take a break here, otherwise the ads will come crashing in on top of us at 7 to 10.
Hi, Tony Street here. It's time to try Coast. Feel good. Billy Joel, Tina, Michael, The Eurythmics. Coast plays the most feel-good 80s.
Auckland's 98.2.
Coast FM. If the Doors lights your fire, then 70s rocks for you. With plenty of this and none of this. Unless you're into that. We've got that too.
The new iHeartRadio playlist feature. Endless music, always free.
Now it's time to catch up with Adrian from Magnus Benro. Good morning, Adrian. Oh, where are you? Sorry, Adrian. Sorry. Good morning to you.
Oh, good morning. We're having fun this morning, aren't we?
That was the first glitch and it was my fault. I do apologise. You've got an awesome special.
Yes, we've got an awesome special. Anybody wanting to upgrade or buy a new washing machine, we've got the incredible Fisher & Paykel 9 kg front load washer on special with a steam care function plus 13 fabric cycles to cater for every type of load. You can reduce odours, refresh, decrinkle clothes, no need for a full wash cycle using steam refresh. You can also add a garment and it's Wi-Fi enabled so you can control it remotely. This Fisher & Paykel front-load washing machine not only saves you time, but it maximises energy efficiency, reduces water usage, and it optimises wash options. It's an excellent performing front-loader. So come in and see us at Magnus Benro for this 9 kg F&P washing machine with steam care on special this week for just $1,399.
That is an amazing prize. Thank you so much, Adrian. Remember, Magnus Benro has 2 great stores, Green Lane and Constellation on the North Shore. Phone 0952000397 or go and see the friendly team. You can also shop online, magnusbenro.co.nz.
Hi folks, David Seymour here. When you vote at this election, forget the politicians' promises. Instead, think of the waste we're saddling our kids with. Think of the businesses ruined by crime and think of the need to end the division of our country by race. It's not enough to change from red to blue. To ensure that your next government of New Zealand is one of real change, stand with me and party vote ACT.
Authorised by D. Smith, 27 Gillies Avenue, Auckland 1023.
Newstalk ZB. Goodness, an hour goes very quickly. I hope it was more interesting for you than doing your colouring in projects or something in the hotel room. What are you most proud of?
In my time as a politician, I guess, the things that I'm really proud of in my time as Minister of Education, it would be the Food in Schools program, and it would also be the Apprenticeship Boost program. We got record numbers of people signing up for apprentices. I think it's been a tragedy that New Zealand's underinvested in vocational and trades education for a long period of time. And I'm really proud of the fact that as Minister of Education, I've been turning that around, and we're actually getting record numbers of people into apprenticeships.
And how's that Polytech merger going?
Well, that's one of the reasons that we're doing that is because of the vocational education reforms that recognise that fewer kids want to go to Polytech, more of them want to go straight into work and earn and learn at the same time. All
right. Given that Labour and National are so similar in so many things, and that all political parties, I think, want the best New Zealand possible, it's just how they get there, would it be so bad to have a national government for the next 3 years?
Of course, because National basically want to take the country backwards. If you look at many of the risks that we have, higher interest rates, higher inflation, cuts to public services, thousands of people out of jobs before Christmas, if you believe Nicola Willis, and selling $5 billion worth of New Zealand homes to foreign home buyers every year, I actually think those things are going to take New Zealand backwards rather than forwards.
Okay. You talked. Yeah. All right. Very nice to have you with us. Your song is...
I'm Still Standing by Elton John. I think, it's a good motivational song to end my isolation with.
Okay, I look forward to seeing you back out on the campaign trail. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Prime Minister.
Great to talk to you, Kerry. Have a great day.
You too.
Cost of living getting you down? Don't go without. Become a VIP member at the Coffee Club and get 20% off the bill all day, every day. Join online today. Visit thecoffeeclub.co.nz and start saving.
Wondering how to entertain the kids these school holidays?
Relax, Magnus Benro have got you covered.
There's a whole world of entertainment just waiting for them with the new Panasonic 42-inch OLED.
It has My Home Screen 8, so they can